Hey guys, Probable1701 here, and today we are going to talk about 3 classic Doctor Who villains that I feel like haven't really been treated as well as they should have in the modern series. That their appearances in the modern series, for the most part, don't live up to their appearances in the classic series. And I'm going to do them in order of how badly I think they've been screwed over in the modern series. And of the 3, I'm going to start with the Daleks. Now, the Daleks is the one on here I think is debatable. Because most of the Dalek stories aren't bad by any means. They're just, excuse me, they're not like stellar masterpieces, essential watching. Now, some are. There are some good exceptions. The episode Dalek is really good, like really, really good. I think the season 1 finale is really, really good. I enjoyed the Daleks in the season 2 finale. I think they're pretty good there. I personally enjoyed Victory of the Daleks. It has a couple flaws that I think hold it back from being great, but I have a whole video talking about why I like Victory of the Daleks and why I think it's good but not great. You can check that out if you'd like. I'll try to remember to add a link to that in the description below. And then I think Resolution is pretty good. Not super great, but pretty good. I enjoyed it. It's a nice different take on the Daleks, an attempt to make them deadly and scary again. Even Revelation of the Dalek I didn't hate by any means. I thought it was pretty decent. Not super great, but pretty decent. But a lot of the Dalek stories, you know, you have like the Manhattan 2-parter in season 3, which is okay, perfectly watchable. Not really great, but perfectly watchable. I like it. I don't hate it. The Witch's Familiar, Magician's Apprentice is kind of, it has some good moments, but it never quite reaches its potential. It's one of those stories like a lot of Moffat's, the end of his run, where it's an episode or episodes that had potential but don't live up to that potential. But the problem with a lot of those episodes is that they are okay stories. They're not just stellar classics, best Doctor Who ever, must-watch stories like so much of the classic Who stories are. A lot of these stories are a little better than Destiny of the Daleks level or Planet of the Daleks level for comparison. You don't have a whole lot of stories in the modern series. Now, there are a few. Again, Dalek is a good one. The 2-parter at the end of Series 1, the Series 2 finale. There are times when the Daleks are really, really awesome in the modern series, but there's not a lot of times where they're just consistently like good stories like Classic Who had. Like, we're talking Power of the Daleks levels awesomeness, Evil of the Daleks, Genesis of the Daleks, any of the 80s Dalek stories. You just don't have Day of the Daleks. The Daleks were pretty consistently in Classic Who great stories, or like must-watch Doctor Who stories. And while there's only, I'd say, less than half of them in the modern series, probably less than a third of them in the modern series, are just essential Doctor Who viewing. So I do feel like the Daleks, personally, I think they need a rest. I know because of the contract with the Terry Nation estate, I think they have to show up at least once a year. But I really wish they would rest them for about 3 or 4 years and then come up with something to make them threatening and scary again. I do think Resolution and Revolution was kind of trying to get back to that, making them a threat again, and did a decent job of it. But I do feel like they're a little underwhelming in the modern series, especially after the first couple seasons. They're definitely not as good as they were in the classic series. Now, that is the one that's debatable. You could debate that one. But I think the other 2 especially get really shafted in the modern series. Number 2 on the list is the Centaurons. The Centaurons, outside of their first appearance in the modern series, the Centauran Experiment and the Poison Sky, they really haven't had a good story. They're treated as comic relief. And don't get me wrong, I like Strax. In a bubble, I like Strax. Just for what he is, he's funny, he's comic relief. I find him amusing in the episodes he's in. He's a little played out at this point. I like him in his first story especially. I think it's A Good Man Goes to War, because the idea of him punishing Strax by making him be a nurse instead of being a warrior seems like a fitting punishment for a Centauran. So I especially like his first episode, but I kind of wish he had died from his injuries, because he does get a little irksome as he goes on. I can still enjoy him. but he gets a little more irksome. But when you take it outside of that bubble and look at what it's done to the Centaurons as a whole, they're treated as a joke now. They're a punchline. They're a comedy. They're comic relief. And that's not the Centaurons. The Centaurons are supposed to be what they are in that Series 4 two-parter. They're dangerous. They're an army. They're clones, and they're deadly. And they will not stop. And that's what they're supposed to be. That's what they are in the classic series. They are a threat. They are a consistent threat. They are dangerous. They invaded Gallifrey one time and almost succeeded. Gallifrey. They almost beat the Time Lords in the Invasion of Time, which isn't the best story anyway, but that's neither here nor there. They are dangerous, and that is something the new series loses after their first appearance. And the problem with that is that it retroactively hurts Classic Who, because now someone who has grown up watching the modern series, when they go back to watch Classic Who, they see the Centaurans, they're like, it's the Centaurans, this one's going to be hilarious. This one will be funny. It's a Centaur one, I can probably skip it. And they're missing out because, like, the Time Warrior, which I actually haven't seen, but everybody says is really good. The Centaurian Experiment, which is good. The Invasion of Time, which isn't great, but the Centaurian threat is good in it. I mean, the Centaurans are even one of the driving forces of the two Doctors. They're dangerous. I mean, they almost kill the Doctor and kill his future incarnations too. They are dangerous, and that is what they lose. People, most people, when they see a Centauran now, they're like, oh, that's Strax. It's just gonna be a funny one. And as a Classic Who fan, I'm like, oh, no, not again. So, yeah, I feel like the Centaurans have been turned into the comic relief punchline when instead they actually did used to be a serious threat on par with, like, the Cybermen and the Daleks. Maybe not quite the Daleks, but pretty close. And the same problem is what I have with my number one. The Classic Who villain, I feel like, has been screwed over so hard by modern Who. And that is the Cybermen. Because outside of their first story, they really haven't gotten the credit they deserve, for the most part. Their first story, the Age of Steel, Rise of the Cybermen two-parter, is fantastic. A great way to introduce the Cybermen. A great way setting it on a parallel Earth to show why they have a different design and to show their origin in a different universe. Really well done. Hats off. Fantastic two-parter. I even enjoy them when they come back at the end of the series, especially in part one. Part one does a really good job of bringing them in, establishing them as a threat to be reckoned with. And then I don't even mind in the part two of that when the Daleks show up and spank them, because that really does a good job of showing just how powerful the Daleks are. That in and of itself is fine. I don't mind the Daleks just waxing them and it becoming basically a Dalek story in part two, because that does a good job of showing how dangerous the Daleks really are compared to them. It's after that I start to have problems. I'm trying to remember where all they show up. I know we see them in the Next Doctor, which in and of itself, I like the Next Doctor. It's a little silly with the Cyber King. The Cybermen in it aren't bad. I don't like the little dog cyber thing. But the actual Cybermen in it aren't bad. They haven't gone full crap yet. I like in, the Pandorica Opens, when they find the pieces of the Cyberman that are left and he's trying to, take over Amy and the face opens and the skull falls out. That's pretty chilling stuff. That one scene with the Cybermen is done really well, better than most of their appearances later. It's pretty much after that episode. Closing time is... which is sad, because the stinger that opens that episode is really good. The little teaser shot before the credits is really good, but the episode's crap. We beat them with love. Oh. Crap. Nightmare in Silver, I don't mind parts of. I like the Doctor and the Mr. Clever battling it out. I think Matt Smith does that well. I don't like the way the Cybermen are treated. I don't like their new outfits. I don't like that they're treated more like robots. I don't like that they're constantly upgrading, again, more like robots. I hate that cyber design. Don't really care for how the Cybermen are done in this. And then they show up, at the end of season 8, and they're pretty much just the Master's bitch. They do whatever the Master tells them to. No. You would not have seen that in Classic Who. In Classic Who, if the Cybermen had worked out a deal with the Master, say, in, the 5 Doctors, they would be very mistrustful of each other. They would be wary of each other. That would be like Okay, we're working together now, but as soon as I don't need you anymore, and that's what the Master and the Cybermen would be thinking. They would be looking for the perfect opportunity to take out the other. But no, in this one, because Missy has the remote, the Cybermen are her bitch, and it's terrible. Do the Cybermen come back in season 9? I don't remember. They're actually pretty good in part 1 of the At World's End or whatever it's called. I can't remember the name of it. World Enough and Time. That's it. World Enough and Time. I like that, even though we don't really see the Cybermen in it. We kind of see the origins on that ship. That's just a good episode. I like Bill as the Mondasian Cybermen. Part 1 led me to believe that Part 2 could be really good, and then they completely fumble the ball. Dr. Falls is a perfectly salvageable episode. I enjoy it, but I don't like that they didn't stick with the Mondasian design and that they started bringing in all the newer Cybermen. But they go straight from the Mondasian Cybermen to the newer Cybermen. We don't see any of the classic Who Cybermen, like the Earthshock Cybermen or the Invasion Cybermen. I would have liked to have seen that. They go straight from the Mondasian Cybermen to the new Cybermen, which I don't like. I really wish they would have just done that whole story with the Mondasian Cybermen, because I just think they're cooler and creepier and done way more better. And I love the way they were. I love that Mondasian Cybermen design for that 2-parter, especially. It's a good update on that design. So I feel like they kind of fumble the ball, and while the Cybermen aren't done completely poor there, I still think they could have been done better. And then we have them showing up in season 12, and I actually like episode 8 with the lone Cyberman. I do like the lone Cyberman a lot. I really hate that they killed him off, because there's so much potential with him. I loved his design. I loved the actor playing him. Really liked him. Liked the Cybermen in episode 9, Ascension of the Cybermen. Liked everything going there with the Cybermen trying to come back. With the new cyber design, I actually like the Cyberman design. It has really harkens back to some classic Who there with the face. I love that. It really reminds me of that Revenge of the Cyberman invasion face, which I enjoy. And then in episode 10, it just got shit on. It just got shit on. Once again, they get made the Master's bitch. And then they come up with the Cyber Time Lords, which is stupid. I don't actually mind their actual design, because I think it's a nice mockery of the Time Lords with the frowns, and I could see the Master designing them like that, mocking them even in death. So the design I don't mind, it's the concept I mind. And then they can regenerate. So these Time Lords that are dead can regenerate when a Time Lord's not supposed to be able to regenerate when they're dead. And then when they regenerate, they don't regenerate back alive. They regenerate back into like zombie cyber mode. Huh? What? Makes no sense when you actually stop to think about it. Really, The Timeless Children reminds me a lot of The Rise of Skywalker. Is the more you think about it, the more it doesn't make sense. So they keep trying to just show you spectacle, 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 so you don't have time to think about it. So, you know, like in Rise of Skywalker, that doesn't make any... Oh, there's Lando. Oh, wait, that doesn't make any... There's Wedge. And it does the same thing in The Timeless Child, you know. It's like, wait a minute, that doesn't make... Oh, it just showed me the Morbius doctors. Well, that doesn't know. Oh, just showed me something else from Classic. It mentioned the Panopticon. Holy crap. Stuff like that. I just feel like the Cybermen definitely don't get the classic stories like they used to. Like, look at Classic Who. How many, like, really good stories they have. I mean, we have the 10th Planet. A classic. Not just because the first Doctor regenerates, but because it's the Cybermen's first story, and they're so good in it. They have such a good character design. They are a threat. They are there to destroy the Earth. That is the thing. The Cybermen are a threat. The second time we see them, the moon base. Again, deadly, dangerous, taking over people to make them do their bidding. I've never actually seen The Will in Space, so I'm going to go past that one. But I hear it's pretty good. The Invasion. Fantastic. Some of the most iconic shots in all of Doctor Who come from the Invasion when the Cybermen are coming up out of the sewers and walking around that city. Partially because that's just a fantastic cyber design. Partially because those scenes are well shot. And the Cybermen are so good in this, even though they don't show up until really halfway through it. They're still a threat in the shadows, though. Like when Vaughn is communicating with them through that little machine in the wall, you can tell there's something in the shadows that's deadly and dangerous. The Cybermen are more deadly and dangerous in the Invasion than they are in modern Who ever post Season 2. Period. Then we have Revenge of the Cybermen, which is underrated and is still better than most of the Cyberman appearances in Modern Who. At least the Cybermen in the Revenge of the Cybermen are still a threat. They're dangerous. They're trying to destroy this planet that makes the gold, because gold is dangerous to them. They are a threat. And then in Earthshock, do I really have to talk about Earthshock? We know Earthshock is a classic. They are dangerous. They're smart. It shows them planning. They're trying to crash the ship. That way they can prevent, in like 1985, to try to prevent the Doctor and the humans stopping them in 1986 when the 10th planet occurs. They're trying to rewrite history. They're clever. They have a plan. They have a lot of Cybermen there. Earthshock's a very good story. I haven't seen Attack of the Cybermen, but I've heard it's very good. And even Silver Nemesis, for all its flaws, outside of the Cyberman costume design, they're good in it. They're dangerous in it. You get what their objective is in it. They're still better in Silver Nemesis than they are in most of Modern Who. Again, Silver Nemesis has its problems, mostly being a weaker version of Remembrance, and I don't like their little shiny helmets, but in and of itself, script-wise, they're fine. That's the thing. In Classic Who, almost every time, the Cybermen stories are good. It's in Modern Who. They have a few good ones, few okay ones, and then some other ones where they get treated like crap. So that's my thoughts on it. Those are my top 3 classic Doctor Who villains that I just feel like haven't been done complete justice in the new series, especially not as consistently in the modern series as they were in the classic series. I would like to know what you think. Are there any you would like to add to the list? There are some I think have been treated well. That will be a different list for later. I am curious to hear what you guys think. I always enjoy interacting with y'all down in the comments. And I've also noticed lately a lot of y'all interacting with each other in the comments. I also enjoy that. I love starting discussions about Doctor Who. Plenty of other things to do. Click the like button, click the subscribe button, click that bell for notifications. Also, I have started a Patreon page. If you would like to contribute to that, there is a link down below. Please help support me on that. That makes it a lot easier for me to import Doctor Who stuff that I know and love, as I do live in the States. But most importantly, stay safe out there, and thank you for watching.